Today we'll be looking at Unit 56 of MyGrammarLab. It is titled Past Conditions, but it is also known as the third conditional. Here on the picture you see a sample sentence, and later on we'll look at the structure of the sentence. Before we look at the third conditional in detail, let's look at all the conditional sentences, except for type 0, which only uses the present tense and the present tense to talk about definite facts and doesn't need much explanation. But here on the screen we have type 1, type 2, and type 3 conditional talking about different kinds of probability based on the condition that they talk about. Here they are ranked in the order of decreasing probability, meaning type 1 conditional sentences describe the most probable things, while type 3 describes the least probable things. Remember, when we are talking about conditional sentences, do not remember them as fixed formulas. They can be understood using tenses, as we've talked about in class. Now let's recap that a little bit. For type 1, we use the present simple tense to talk about a present condition that leads to a future likely result. Therefore, we use the present simple and the future tense. For the second conditional, we use the simple past just like we would when we write a story. So it's used to talk about imaginary things, and therefore the result is also in the past tense of will. Now the third conditional is a little bit more complicated, and let's look at that on the next page. On this page, we see 3 sections about the third conditional. If you look at the bottom of the page, you will see that the third conditional can be used to talk about regrets, which are things we wish would be different in the past. That's exactly the kind of thing we can also describe with the expressions I wish or if only, as we've discussed before. Now let's move back up to the first section and look at the structure of the third conditional. Let me remind you again, it is not a formula. There are many occasions when we have to mix different types of conditional sentences in order to create a more specific meaning. Therefore, it helps your future learning if you try to understand why different tenses are used in these conditional sentences, instead of just memorizing them. Now for conditional sentences, we always name one condition that is something that has to take place in order for the result to happen. For the third conditional, both the condition and the result are in the past. Therefore, the condition will be the first action in the past, and the result would be the second action in the past. That's why we use the past perfect for the earlier action, that is the condition. As for the result, we will use the perfect form of the verb, such as have flown, have missed, have lost, to indicate that it is something that has already happened. The reason why we have to use have something instead of just the past tense is that we have to indicate the probability as well. So the neutral form will be would, or we may also use might or could to indicate different probabilities. And that's why we use the past perfect tense to name the condition, and we use the perfect form to name the result in the past for the third conditional. And since both of these are in the past and it's related to regrets, we know that it is used to talk about unreal past conditions. It's something that's already happened and can't really be changed. Therefore, the probability of that really happening is really, really low. You can see it as the alternative that did not happen and will never happen again because it's all in the past. And since we are thinking about what did happen and what didn't happen, it can confuse you sometimes when you think about the positive or the negative verb to use. This table here will help you figure that out. you will have to spend some time to really think through that. And once you've thought through, you can move on to the next page